There are three questions, so I'm going to answer them briefly first. First, we understand that monks they follow the discipline, but is there any discipline that even the common people has to follow? But whether it is the monks or it is common people, there is just a very basic thing that everyone has to follow, and that's the 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 discipline of the discipline of the threefold refugees. Well, we just think that like air, for example, like air, we always have it, and we just think we don't understand its importance. But when I went to Ladakh, I realized that the air is very important. Just like that, just like that, is it okay to say that we just rely on the three jewels? But it is not so. It is just like any other discipline. And so in Buddhism, it is not acceptable to have your respect for the superstitious things. And also, common people, they have to live the common life of every day. And well, to say if everyone becomes monk or nuns, and if they live like monks or nuns, then there will be no human being in less than 100 years. The common people, they have to follow the 5 discipline. For example, even the discipline they say do not lie, for monks it's not acceptable to lie. But for common people, amongst the discipline of not lying, we also have things like this. If I have lied to save my children, then although there is karma, it is acceptable to a certain extent. Well, if you don't do that, that's even better. But to bring up your child, sometimes it's inevitable. And so in that regard, the interpretation is a little different. And since the monks or nuns, we have different life, we have to follow all the disciplines. But also for common people to say if it's okay if we just follow the 5 disciplines, well, that is not so. If you can follow better, then it's better to follow all disciplines. For a monk above 20 years, they have 250 disciplines to follow, but they are almost like the 10 precepts of a monk. And it has also been written that they cannot even have the desire. So for a monk, from the beginning to the end, they are equal. So even the hairstyle, there is no difference in the hairstyle. Everyone has to shave, and everyone is not even allowed to wear the hat. And if it's too cold, they can wear the hat for a short period of time, but they cannot distinguish the grade, or to say the level, even by the color. And also the clothes of monks, in the common world we try to distinguish, but even the monk robes are not allowed to have differences. And so the nuns and monks, they are forced to follow 250 precepts, and also common people, lay people, they're supposed to follow 5 precepts. But it's not that as a monk you only follow the precepts of monks, but But if you desire to follow the Bodhisattva, then you have to follow the 38 precepts. And if you enter into the diamond vehicle, you're also supposed to follow the precepts of the diamond vehicle. So it applies the same for even the common people. If you receive the precepts then of Bodhisattva, then you also have to follow the precepts, disciplines, and you are also supposed to behave that way. So we also say it is a monk bodhisattva or lay people bodhisattva, but for and also monks, if they follow the bodhisattva precepts, well, it's the fastest way to get enlightenment. But if they are also surrounded with your own agony or attachments, then it's very difficult. After different, well, it seems like there's no answer. Well, you all studied Lamlim, but it's almost like you came back from your trip and then you wonder if your husband is actually your husband. So even the lay people, although they receive the 5 precepts and then receive the bodhisattva precepts, and then you can also proceed with your practice. But as a monk, if you practice the bodhisattva, the way to bodhisattva is way easier because you can throw away your greediness even sooner and also in a more professional way. Well, I didn't see you for a couple of times. Did you come and sit this side? And what about you? Where did you go last time? I heard that you didn't even tell your friend where you went. So even though lay people precepts, it's just different from monks and nuns, but the bodhisattva precepts or the diamond precepts, it's the same. So for monks and nuns, you're supposed to do it. But it doesn't mean as a lay people you are not supposed to do it. Well, you can work very hard and you can earn a lot of money and offer to and also being generous to many people. That is something that you can only do as a lay people. You cannot do it as a monk. So you have a different property. And also, if you have become a king or if you have become very rich, then you also have the ability to contribute to all others. So it's difficult to say which is good and which is bad as a monk or as a lay people. Entering which path? Well, even if you go follow the monk's path, if you are surrounded by your own attachments, then it's very difficult. But even as a common people, if you let go of your greediness and if you follow the patience even well, then it's even better. Well, I think it's better for common people, lay people to tolerate even further or practice the patience because when I go to very loud houses with kids, I cannot even tolerate an hour. But I heard that if there are 3 sons, then you break 3 pillars in the house because there are so many kids and then when they grow up, even at the time that when they're growing up, even if they break 3 pillars and even if they break like doors, they don't get hurt. It's quite funny. So like that, I'm telling you that there are precepts. Well, I understand the voidness, but when I see, even if I try to study the timeless void of nirvana, it's difficult to understand. Well, this is right. What is nirvana? In a very simple way, because you understand the voidness, the greediness. When the greediness disappears, we say that's nirvana. The the anger, the greediness, and also the foolish behavior because of my stubbornness. When they disappear, we say it's nirvana. The flame which has arose because of that, it has gone off. That is nirvana. So the timeless voidness of nirvana is, well, the agony doesn't stop because of samatha, but through vipassana, if you come to know clearly that everything is void. In other words, if you start feeling the voidness completely and that they have no true nature, then the attachment starts to end. And because of that, all the agony, you'll be free from all the agony. Did your husband go to work? Well, you have better condition to study than your husband. Well, they have to earn money, so they have to go to work. And if you don't go to work, it's okay because you can still survive on the money that your husband is earning. So sometimes, well, at point of the time when you can study, I feel a little pity for the husbands. It applies the same to your husband too, right? So the final, the goal of our Buddhism, it is timeless void of nirvana. Where for the third question is, I only know Venerable Jinok and Venerable Chongjang in Korean monk, but fortunately I came to know about this. I came to know two of you, and I am lucky enough to see this online. Well, the word Chongbin refers to pure and also poor, but a monk follows the form of poor and pure and also poor, and pure refers here as no agony, no greediness. It refers as no greediness, and because of that, we live without possessing things. So when we say pure and poor, it refers to monk. When they live in their everyday life, people have misunderstanding. Well, if it refers, so although they pretend as if they are pure, it's different. This word, is often misunderstood, and also it has very deep meaning. Although you have the virtue or merit to contain them, you have no greediness, and so you have no obsession of possessing anything. And so for a monk, we say they are pure and also poor. If a teacher, for your greediness, for their own greediness, if they take an advantage of the students, it's not right. So a teacher, if they have greediness within them, then they can never be a teacher. If they have greediness, why is that so? Because they cannot lead the right way. even the common people themselves, they are bound to be led by their greediness, and because of that, someone like Yu Byung-won, even like Yeoudo Songmo Church, because of the church is going through the detail investigation. The money has been transferred illegally, or the retirement fund was about like so many millions. Well, if they give me about that much, I would also retire. Will you give me that much? So well, when I asked one person before about this, that person said it's better not to give you and not to send you. So if you have greediness, then the disciples and also the common people, you become someone like who takes advantage of them. If your believers had a lot of money, then it just So why does a teacher have to be pure and also poor people? Also, you should not be greedy in terms of religion too. Buddhism, we are not trying to do something to gather people towards Buddhism. Whether it is someone who belongs to a certain part or not, we are trying to do some activity for you to be awakened from your greediness, and so that you don't live a life that's full of greediness. That's Buddhism, just but we are not trying to gather people to and also strengthen our power. Then what is the difference between them, between us and IS if we do that? All the dirty and difficult things are there, not except the bombs. So a monk has to be pure and also poor. Even during the teaching, Dalai Lama said it takes a long time for you to meet teachers. But if you go to close by monastery, how do you know if you can follow the teacher or not? Well, you cannot know. Well, everyone has their hair shaven, and it's very difficult to know. Nowadays, when I see flower, uh, well, I also get confused if that's a real flower or if that's artificial flower. Because artificial flowers are so well made, if you touch it, well, nowadays, even the material with which it's made, sometimes you don't even know, even after touching it. Nowadays, the fake ones or artificial ones, they even look even better. They're so well made. The like the best, the biggest statue in Asia, or this is made of gold, so it is more spiritual. Or they also have the statue from some special place. It's countless, and it's not even enough to talk about even. So, in very first, you have to have a wish that you would like to meet the right teacher, and also you have to check if they are doing the wrong things or not wrong things. How are you going to figure that out if they are not going against the cause and effect? You have to see if they're just planting the beans and trying to get the beans, or see because we have such a great statue here. If there is an aura out of that statue in the night, or There's also udambara blossoming, where sometimes they take the egg of the dragonfly as the legendary flower. They're doing all these cheatings. Where some merchant in China, or they wrote it as the head of a lamb, but they're actually selling the dog meat. They just make it look good outside, but inside it's not actually so. Well, in China, they bought a tea, and they even did the tasting, and it was really good. And after it was packed, and when we went home and checked it, it was the another tea. And so when we asked the guy to change it, that person said that person has never sold this. So I told the guy that this is like the they sell lamb head, but they're actually selling the dog meat. Well, the China, I spoke in a very nice manner that we think of China with a very good opinion, but you're like a great liar, a cheater. And I asked the guide, are you going to translate this? And he said he will. So I told him that by selling this, you'll be losing way more. And and because of this you'll be suffering greatly. And also I asked the guy to give the tea to him, and say you should also sell this tea by cheating others. And he also had a lot of blush, like he was also blushing. The first thing that you have to see is if they are doing the wrong thing, and from there you also have to see if they're trying to stick up without discipline, or if they're also trying to practice with other believers, or if they're also trying to help others. Well, when he asks you to take your time and study if they're doing the right thing, is it is what this means. Like if you take time to study how they do, then most of the time it's already revealed. Although they say they are trying to study very hard, or if they're praying, they sometimes they say you could even pass the legal test, or there will be improved score of the final test, or because of the grace of Buddha, you could also be cured. Well, but when you see them, you can realize that they're actually cheating you. And also, in front of the monastery is also written that 1,000 days prayer for the examination or this or that. When in front of the monasteries they have that kind of PR, then do not go to that monastery. Oh, if you ask if there is no temple that doesn't have those kind of things written, then don't go. So you have to take your time and study. If you say since it's close to your home, if you're going there, then that's a foolish thought. It's very important to go to a place where they follow the right teaching. And although it is just a single speech, uh, you have to try to be close to the place where they're trying to keep up with Buddha's teaching. Well, if there's a wrong thing, then you cannot go forward. By stopping what is wrong, you can actually improve or you can change. While drinking, if you're drinking, then there is no way to overcome drinking. By stopping the drinking, you're actually helping yourself. Then that's the end, actually. Well, maybe because of your previous drinking, your body could have some problems. But that's already done, so that's the karma that's inevitable. So is our everyday life now. If you haven't done anything wrong now, but if you are going through a difficult time, then that's the consequence of what we have done before. It's the same as the result or consequence that you'll be facing with drinking and smoking. You asked me to let you know, and I have taught you. I have taught you all three of them, and I also spoke about this in public because I thought this could also help you all a lot.
여러분한테도 이제 많이 도움이 될 것 같아서 이제 얘기해볼게요.
133, page number 133.
보살이 지혜만을 의지하면 승문이 그 단계 할 거예요. 보살이 지혜만을 의지하면 승문이 갈구하는 열반에 떨어져서 속박당하는 것 같아서 무주열반에.
If the bodhisattva is only relying on wisdom, then they will fall into the nirvana that desires only the Shravaka. Therefore, since they are bounded, they cannot attain the nirvana of non-abiding. So here it means you should not only be relying on the sayings or speeches of Buddha. The actual process of becoming so through samatha vipassana or through the paramitas, you have to learn and you have to put into practice. Even if we have learned and also listened to Buddha's teachings, practicing them and also if I become like the other, is actually different. When I become like that through the means or through the methods of becoming that, well, of course, that's also the method that Buddha has taught us, but the activities of mind that I'm actually trying to become like the other, we require them. Without them, well, just like other religion that believes in other God, if it's only possible with belief, then is it okay to say when you are drinking, it's possible to attain enlightenment, or is it also possible to go to heaven even if you kill others with bomb? Knowing it or actually becoming like that is different. Becoming like that if only with wisdom or if only with the sayings of Buddha. Well, although Buddha's sayings teach us the right path, it's just like a map. But it's I who will be going down the road. So even if you know a lot of Buddha's sayings, if you don't put it to practice, then it doesn't have so much meaning. And if something goes wrong, then although you have been taught, you could just be verbally repeating it, but you will not be putting it into any practice. Well, if that happens, then that's a really serious problem. Well, it's either that you'll be just living on with the sayings of Buddha, or you'll be just making your profits out of it. You cannot reach the nirvana of non-abiding. Here the nirvana of non-abiding, I explained to you many times, this is a nirvana that you don't remain in nirvana or even in the life of the lay people. So in order to change all sentient beings, although I go through the samsara, I am not the sentient being, so I'm going there because I want to or I wish to visit there, and also because although we say we are going there because we desire to, if it means if the nirvana has not been attained, it is not so. The nirvana has also been attained. Arahant, they remain with the nirvana, but bodhisattvas, with that as its basic stone, because of their willingness to save others, they go through nirvanas again. Well, Avalokitesvara and all other people like that, or beings like that, are like those people, and also they are like our standards, and they are like our examples, and they have revealed themselves in front of us. Well, we have to continue to change our heart to that aspect. Well, this is a very important book or very important way of our life. But no matter how much I think about it, well, you're very greedy about things, and although you hold on to that, there's nothing that really is being held. It's just like you're trying to grasp your fart, where at least water, like if you grasp it, then you can let it slip. You can stop it from slipping to a certain extent. But as for the fart, even if you try to catch it, you can never catch it. That's just like a shadow, where the Buddha saying is so accurate that all the things, the powers in our everyday life, they're just like our shadows. And so, although you feel like you'll be able to hold it, it just slips through, and it is nowhere to be held. And if the mind like that without any attachments, if you can change your heart like that, then there will be no agony arising regarding this world, and the agonies or afflictions they will lose their strength. Yes, it's very futile. And at the end of the Dharma Sutra, it's written that it's all very futile. There is nothing that is not futile. If there is anything that is eternal or not futile, we can hold on to it. But no matter how much you try to hold on to, there wouldn't be many things. There wouldn't be many things even if you try to look at it throughout your history. And although the scientists try to look for it, even with so many different machines, well, they cannot find it. And although we don't ask them, they have already made books about it. Even the physicists, they only say it's only in plus and minus, and also that doesn't stay, but that also disappears. So even scientists hoping that there will be something, although they tried to look for it, they were not able to find it. If they have found anything, then they would have held on to it. So where even not even one person is answering, isn't it? It's just that we are misunderstanding. Looking at the object that we have at our attachments, saying that, oh, well, it's going to disappear soon. They are going to disappear, and I'm also going to disappear. Even you will grow old and sick and disappear, and so is I. Well, just because we rely on each other, we live shortly. Well, even the relying, it's not that we rely on for so long. Even your husband relying on you, you feel like you're listening to them, but you don't listen, right? And even here, even if you're in front of me, are you thinking of your husband? Some people said when they think of their husband, it raises their blood pressure, so it's not okay. They said it really raises their blood pressure. That they also think, how are they going to live together when they have aged so much? Well, to live apart, he has all the money, and to stay together, the more he gets old, he's yelling more, and she has to cook for him, and she cannot bear it. And also, and the worse the husband is, they just stay at home. Well, you should be so grateful if your husband is not so foolish and also very stubborn. But when they bring money to you, well, even if they are very stubborn, because of the drugs, so-called money, you could tolerate. But the moment they don't bring money, you get angry. It's so funny. When the money comes to you, it's yours. And when you use the money of someone else, paying back, you pay back with a great morality, but but naturally you don't pay it back. So that's why something called credit. Credit has been developed, but if you calculate as per like medieval times, you cannot find it. It's just that we rely on each other and live on, but there's nothing much to trust. It's not like nothing much, but there isn't anything at all. This is between us, but even the children, they're not worth trusting. When you go trekking, at the entrance of the trekking, just think of them as a stick in front of the your trekking route. There are not so much to believe on. Also, it is not easy to accept this Buddhist teaching. Although we say it seems so, but in reality, if you enter into your reality, you find it's not easy. Well, in reality, you're really like your son. Well, you're not sure. After you get married, it seems like you're not really happy. You feel free, but you feel relieved. But when you see your daughter-in-law, you feel, well, after bringing up for 20, 30 years, like she's taking everything. And after you've put so much effort in bringing them up, he gives all the money to the daughter-in-law. Ask him to pay back. That you're not ask for interest, but ask him to pay back. That's why the means which are far away from wisdom, we say there is the bondage or something that bounds the bodhisattva. Buddhism without any practice or enactment, it's all a lie. If Buddhism doesn't have any activity to do because Buddhism is formed on basis of strong activities that could be done. The sayings that the Mahayana Buddhism, we have to believe it and we have to act like a Mahayana. But although you cry out for it, you don't even give people food if a beggar comes to your door. Well, even the names of the monasteries are Mahayana, but they don't even give beggars food. There's not even Hinayana. So look at it. Korea, we follow Mahayana, although you say so. People who are living poor life, there are also people, that's because they're unlucky. But look at also people with money, they suffer a lot and they go to mental hospitals too. But by But without teaching them where there is a clean water and also clean ideas, instead of teaching them this, you have competition about building the biggest temple or building the biggest statues, or this is sacred. Is it okay if you live like that?
어디 선빵인가 그 문고리만 잡으면 해탈 그막그 가피고 한다 그러니까 전부 다 보살들이 그냥 문고리에만 매달려 가지고
Where I don't remember which meditation room, but they said if you just hold on the door, then you'll be blessed. That's why the believers, they were just holding on to the doorknobs, but it was just an expression that open this door with this doorknob and do many good deeds. Where when you want to enter into the room, then you have to open the door. That's why the expression was given like, oh, you have to open the doorknob. But the believers, they were just holding on to the doorknob and expected to be blessed.
그 말의 뜻이 있다는 거죠. 말의 낙처가 모르고
That is so useless. You don't even understand. They don't even understand what it means. There is a meaning to all the speeches. They don't even understand with what intention it was spoken before.
자 어디 외국에서 갖고 온 돌로서 만든 부처님 영험이 있다 그래서
Also, someone before has said
그럼 거기 사람들은 전부 다 영험이 있어서 아무도 안 죽게 그 돌이 꽉 찼게
the Buddha made of a stone that's from far away is sacred. And so when I ask where is it from, I ask because the land is so full of this stone, all the people will be blessed. If you just think about it once, then you can easily come to know. But with those things, you do so many wrong things. That's why it is not okay.
부처님의 말씀이라는 것 자체도
So, in fact, the means or methods,
부처님께서 말씀하신 이 지혜로운
the
말씀들은 전부 다
the Buddha's teaching without the six paramitas, it in fact only disturbs the studies. The wise sayings that Buddha has spoken. Also, it's also same for you, but also it benefits sentient beings, and only through this means
그 지식이
will be helping each other. But without this,
된 것처럼 생각하는 착각하는 그래서 지옥을 떨어지는
the information or the knowledge that you have, it could actually put you under restrictions, and that's why you could also fall into hell. And those people, when they fall into water, then maybe the head would float on the water, and the rest of the body could also fall under the get drowned.
방편을 가진 지혜
So that's why someone who is freezing to death, just like that, by relying on one flame, they could come to life. And just like that, you have to rely on the wisdom.
만약에 추운데
Well, when someone feels cold, if the person wears warm clothes or is near the flame,
내가 목을
just like that. But if you are feeling cold, if you're only thinking about one flame, do you think you're not freeze to death?
갖다가 마약에 중독된 것처럼
Because you're unlucky.
나는 생각으로
Because you're unlucky, if you realize that you need to accumulate virtues,
정말 자기 실행이 없는
just because you think of it, you assume that you are actually doing the deed, and that is just a practice without much essence.
그 다음에 믿음을 통해서
A practice or enactment, it should always follow. An action should always follow. The belief, through the belief, you need to understand, and with the understanding, you have to put into action, and through the action, you need to have the experience. those four stages of Mayana should evolve. Then only you will have your own experience.
나아가는 것이지. 그렇지 않고 어떻게 나아갈 수 있겠는가?
If that happens, together with the sentient beings, you yourself could also lead to happiness. Or else, how can you look forward for the happiness?
예, 성문과 같은 방식으로 깨달으려 하지 말고 대보적경 대성 10회 10법회 제9에
Do not try to attain enlightenment with methods like Shravaka,
철저히 받들어서 그 불을 지극히 숭배하고 스승처럼 여긴다.
just like it was spoken on the ninth teaching of the tent.
여기 두 손에
Well, if someone, even if someone
자신의
thinks of the flame just like its teachers,
것이라는 것을 알고 있기 때문이다. 마찬가지로 보살 역시
although the person is looking up at the flame, the person doesn't try to hold on to the flame because he already knows that if he tries to get hold of the flame, it could hurt his body. Likewise, although the bodhisattva has attained nirvana, he doesn't practice nirvana because with that understanding, he understands that he will turn back. Well, those people who believed in Zoroastrianism, they believe that the fire is very holy.
손에다가 숯불을 얹어놓고 불고 그러지 않잖아요.
And if you think that's very holy,
그래서
well, even if a person who thinks the fire is very holy, they put it in some utensil, but they don't put it on their palm because it's going to give them so much suffering.
이 사람이 보살은 뭐와 같으냐면 지식만 가지고
So likewise, just by understanding Buddha's teaching,
그것을 갖다 불을 손에 들고 있는 것 같이 위험하단 말이에요.
well, if the bodhisattva is only speaking with the knowledge that they have, that's almost as dangerous as for the Zoroastrianism to hold the fire in their hand. It doesn't help them at all. Because of that, it could infect or harm others too.
잘 들어 이 인류가
You understand?
생각해야 돼. 인류가 생긴 이래로 가장 체계적이고 가장
Well, you have to think like this.
있는 방법을 갖다
After this mankind has been founded, the most systematic and the best way for human beings to be happy is the Buddha's sayings, and that's the best sayings.
하여튼 이 얘기를 지금 듣고 앉았단 말이야.
That's the best saying.
하여튼 인연이 이제건 전혀
Well, whatever it is, we are sitting here listening to the sayings. Whichever relations it has been, it is a really good thing.
그러니까 보살은 열반을 그러니까 소성 열반을
So, a bodhisattva,
안가는 이미 다 성취를 한 사람들이란 말이야. 했는데 거기에
well, arahant are those who has already achieved nirvana.
그는 거기서 끝나고 그 열반으로 인해서 그
But bodhisattva does not remain there.
나가지 못하고 대승에 나가
Because if they stay there, then because of that attachment, they cannot go forward to the Mayana, and that means there's also no benefit to the mankind, and there's also no way for them to attain more enlightenment. And that's almost like the Zoroastrianism. They put the fire on their palms.
스승들이 말이지 공부는
So just like that, the Buddha's teaching, if we don't put it to an action, that is not going to help us, but it's going to be only distorting the factors. So even the reason why they call the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism as tantric is That's because if they don't put into an action, they just stop the teaching, and when they are ready for the next teaching, they proceed with the next teaching.
그러므로 지혜를 가진 명가 방편에만 단순히 의지하면
That's how you
모든
study.
경지를 뛰어넘지 못하고 단지 속박만 당할 뿐이다.
Therefore, if you only rely on means, then the bodhisattva cannot outcome from the status of common people, but they will only be restricted.
실행만
But if we don't practice samatha, and if we don't have the proper memory and proper understanding of Buddha's teaching, and if we just put six parameter into an action, then we will only accumulate virtue, and there will not be much meanings to it. And so that's why the two of them have to be practiced together simultaneously.
이것은 진언으로 완전히
Therefore,
보살은
you have to rely on the means that has wisdom.
힘을 길러서
And this is just like the poison that's been made with the
이 지혜라는 것은
that's been made with
견해란 말이야.
the mantra.
말씀은 전부 다
If we practice if the bodhisattvas practice wisdom, then
또 실제 실행을
it changes to dharma nectar. That's why we have to keep practicing it. The sayings of bodhisattva, the sayings of Buddha is about voidness. So if you only understand this and if you don't experience it, then it also causes problem. So even the wisdom itself,
파라미타 그러니까
where we say the wisdom paramita, right?
지혜 바람이란 전부 다
The pranya paramita.
공간 상태에서의 관찰이랍니다.
So the wisdom paramita.
그것에 대한 관찰인데 이 관찰
The wisdom paramita is the observation when you have already cultivated the wisdom.
그래서 이제
But if you only have the wisdom paramita, but if you don't have if you only have the wisdom about voidness, but if you don't have means, then that's also a big problem.
같이 행해져야 되는데 그것의 원동력은 어디에 있느냐면 보리심에 있다.
So the observation of voidness and the six paramita has to be practiced together. But where lies is but where is its but then where is its driving force? The driving force lies with but the essence is the compassion.
공성을 체험하고 나서도
There is no need even to mention that the karmas are also accumulated with offering. So even after you experience the voidness,
했단 말이죠.
after understanding a lot of things about wisdom paramita, and you have also experienced the voidness, and
공성에 대한
with them, if you are putting into practice of the six paramita, then the more you offer, the more you are being generous. You will come to more detail about the voidness. So
이제 그 법화와
the evil acts
아집이 사라지게 됐단 말이야. 임무와
and the absence of I, and also the absence of
바람이를 행하면 행할수록 다시 얘기해서 공성을 체험하고 내가 지금 육바람이를 실행을 하잖아요. 보시바람이
the absence of dharma or absence of self, you will also experience them. So if we put into practice of the six paramitas,
더 깊은 체험을 하게 된다.
the more we practice them, we will have deeper experience of voidness.
방편을 타고납니다. 보살은 어떻게 해서 출생하느냐? 보리심을 통해서
Bodhisattvas are talented or with the wisdom, and also means how are they born? Through the bodhisattva, they understand the sayings about the voidness. Starting from understanding the Buddha's teaching, we call that as wisdom, and putting that to action, we call that means. But if we call them as a bodhisattva, a bodhisattva should have both of them as their features. They should never lack in any of the two. Just like two wheels of a cart. If a bodhisattva cannot practice the two, then they are not bodhisattvas. The Shravakas, they resent or they try not to work for the betterment of other beings. Like Hinayanas, the Pratyeka Buddha, tolerating for sentient beings or upholding the precepts or going through the self-discipline for the sentient beings, they try not to do it. For them, the essence lies with them, the practice of Arahant. That's why it's difficult to attain the complete voidness and also the complete compassion. But a bodhisattva with wisdom and methods, they try to live their life for the betterment of all sentient beings, and they take that as their greatest happiness. Bodhisattvas, they have means and true experience of voidness. They practice their samatha, and for the betterment of all sentient beings, they practice their means again and again. So, in your mind, you always have to keep in mind what is putting that to action, and what is paramita. So it is moving from this place to the other. And what is this? This is actual work, actual enactment. The paramita also means an action. So you're actually putting that into an action. By putting that into an action or by enacting them, well, you can reach to your destined place. If you achieve that, if you put that to action, it also you can also reach to the enlightenment more deeply, and also your merits will increase. And after all, just like the great bodhisattvas, it will happen to you, and eventually you will be able to reach to the level of bodhisattva. You will keep progressing, but it's different with the Hinayanas. The Mahayanas, they have very good understanding of the fact that the more that they do, they get closer to Buddha. For all sentient beings, if you're you have to try not to ruin your actions because of your too deep restrictions about speeches and your actings when you're working for the betterment of all sentient beings. So let's think of it this way. Well, someone said before, there was a monk. Well, since there's a dog in my room, he asked, why are you keeping dog in your monastery? And then I asked, shall I throw this away? And he said, when in Sastras it's written that you're not allowed to grow them. And so I said, after listening to you, the Sastra seems to be right. Well, Buddha has not spoken anything wrong, so maybe I should keep the dog away somewhere else. But then if you throw that away, that dog would die. So which is not keeping up with the discipline, and it's a murder, it's a killing. Then the teachings of Mahayana is the essence. If I'm doing some action for myself, if it causes suffering to the other, or if it causes benefit to the other, it goes to the area of the benefit. It's also there in the sastras. Well, when the monk was going his path, there was a deer, and he went inside the monk's robe, and he's not able to move because it's inside the robe. And the hunter was chasing, and he asked, "Did you see the deer?" And the monk just stood still. And the hunter said, "You didn't see?" Because he was in a hurry. And he ran away because he has to chase the deer. And after a lot of time, he let the deer go. If we don't want to lie, then we should say the deer is here, isn't it? But not saying anything, that's also a lie. Because the deer is here, because he has hidden the deer. But killing a life, even this deer, where the deer has jumped into you and you have to save the deer, and also you should not lie. And also you have to reduce the hunter from committing a murder. And for someone who is so keen on hunting, if you tell the hunter you should not kill, then the hunter will try to kill even more. And so if you ask if the monk has broken the discipline of not lying, in Mahayana, we don't look at it in that regard. Not in Mahayana. Well, this story is about, in the 경주, 남산. On one side there was Dardari, and the other side there was Bakbagi. And two of them practiced so hard. And the person who gained enlightenment first, they're supposed to save the other. And that's how they studied. But when it was very dark, one woman came, and she was about to give birth. And when Dardari thought about it, he follows discipline very hard, and he only has one room, and so he was very scared. And so he said, "I have to follow the discipline." So the bakbagi, he doesn't even follow the discipline, so go there. So she was going through the pain of labor, but she still went there. But then Venerable Bakbak, he said, "Well, there is nowhere to go in this mountain, so stay in this room." And he even helped her giving birth and took bath. But then when Dardari thought about it, how did he take care of giving birth? And so he went there after breakfast, and Venerable Bakbak, his face, it has different aura. It was already bright, and he had a face just like a bodhisattva. And he asked, "What happened?" And he said, "Yesterday this lady came and I did this, and she was Avalokitesvara. She was Avalokitesvara. And where did they go? They disappeared." And Avalokitesvara has said, well, so it's that Avalokitesvara has given the ceremony of sprinkling water on the head of devotee. Well, on the water, the water that he took the baby's bath, he bathed the baby. She soaked some leaf, and she sprinkled on his head, and he said, "I have no doubt at all." And he said, "Now I have no question about it all." And so he asked, "Where's the remaining water?" And the water was outside. A little bit of it was outside in the some container. So he dipped his feet and also his hands, and only the hands and the feet it became yellow in color. Well,
아기를
when a woman is having a baby,
아이 법에 다른 거다 띠뿌리고
forget about all the disciplines or the precepts that's taught in the Buddhist teaching, but you have to help them giving birth. It was told not to harm,
만들어 놓은 것이 이게
but this is not about harming. So in the discipline, if you are so bounded by it,
아기
and someone who is about to give birth, well, it also happened with Mr. Jung.
우리나라 기록상
I,
제일로 스트리킹
I say this many times, right? As per the Korean history, he's the one who first ran naked.
절 앞에 와서 나왔는데
In winter, well, the monasteries also did it, all these acts. There was also hospitals and also like a kind of welfare house.
그 유리글씨 그런 사람들 안 얼어 죽으라고 방에 불
The rooms were heated warm so that the beggars could come and stay. And over there, the monks they fed them and all. So those of them who has children, they have no place to give birth. So when they come to the monastery, and on the way, she had the child, and the venerable, he saw it on the way, so he ran there.
산지 뭐 이걸 어떻게 그따 애기 난다
But
하느냐고 이렇게
But if you want to follow the discipline, then you could say this robe is given to me by Buddha. How can I use it for baby's birth? But then he didn't even think about them.
제가 뭐한
Well, there was also a phone call to the monastery and said, "Well, I want to ask something. I'm not feeling well, so I ate the dog meat. And can I come to the monastery?" Well, you don't eat dog meat. If you have eaten, then come for your repentance. It became more weird because after you ate the dog meat, you didn't come to the monastery. Well, with the Buddha's robe, if you can save the life of the mother and the child, then it's good enough. Well, even if Buddha has given to you the monk robe made of gold, it is more effective than having it by your side for millions of years. Where someone has also said before that this translate.
돈이 없어서 글쎄 말이야 나는 지금 석전자로도 팔아가지고 해버렸으면 좋겠는데 팔리지
Well, in order to continue with the translation, the center, there's no money. But then, and I say, yes, it is. But then, if I can, I would like to sell Sokchon Monastery and sell it and do it. But no one is buying the Sokchon Monastery. This is way more important than many monasteries.
되니까 바지 저고리 다 벗어주고 하니까 지금
Well, the monk was naked at the time because he gave all the things that he could. So,
완전 스트리킹
so he was stripped and he ran all the way to the monastery, and he took a very thin cloth, and he again took the blankets and ran there to save the baby and also the mother. And after listening to that story, the king asked if he could become the teacher of the king, but he was embarrassed, and so he was shy and ran away. But that's not the only thing that he has done. Well, it was just one of the basics that he has done before.
마음을 그렇게 크게
So you have to have such a great heart.
그 마음이라는
So a heart, well, even if you try to develop even if you try to have so much heart, it doesn't overflow. If our body, if we try to expand it, it has problems. But our mind or our heart, even if we try to expand it until the boundaries of the universe, it doesn't matter. Even if you want to save all sentient beings of this universe, nothing will stop you.
마음을 크게 내니까 아주 돈을 벌어서 뭐
Do not think of the idea that you just earn some money and save some beggars. The hearts of the Koreans, it should expand so that I will earn so much money, and with the money that I have earned, I will try to make that no one in this world will be hungry in whichever aid that I go. Those kind of mind, you could actually expand it even larger than Hyeong-eun. He says he can even float in the air. Well, because we have used the name Hyeong-eun, it became a little weird, but the mind of the Mayana is something like that. What is the opposite of Mayana? It is not even Hinayana, but it is very petty and very ill mind. What's the use of having such a petty mind? Try to expand it a little more. You will not lose anything, and it won't even cost you anything. Well, yesterday, I was so sad, and the tears I couldn't do anything. Think about the 7-year-old child who died in the hands of his stepmother. I could not hold on my tears. Where the child who cannot even run away, the stepmother, and the 5-year-old kid was beaten to death by the stepfather. The mother kept the child, the stepmother kept the child in the storage and gave him rotten food and starved him to death, and also sprinkled like cold water and killed the child. From the point of view of the child who died, how scary and how cold and how miserable was it? And due to which karma from the previous life, the life that has not even blossomed, the adults, when you think of how they have been killed, well, my throat was so blocked and my heart was so much in pain that I could not do anything. Even if it's not the child from your own stomach, everyone has the same life. Someone who is born from the stomach of such a mother, how can they have the proper form of human? It's not only one or two who is not like actual human being. Where are we? As spoken in 대보적경, Kazab is like this. For example, with the mantra and with medicine, with the medicine, the poison made of medicine and mantra, nothing can be killed. Likewise, the agni of bodhisattvas, it has already has the wisdom, and so it cannot actually fall. What does it mean? The proper understanding of Buddha's teaching, and because of experience, you have the bodhisattvas has gotten rid of their agony, and because of that, the enactments of bodhisattvas, no one can deteriorate it. It doesn't get damaged. Why is it so? Because if you have something, if you have the willingness for yourself, if there's something that we can say is selfish, that can be attacked. But bodhisattva, they don't have anything so-called as themselves or selfish, so nothing can be damaged. And also, bodhisattvas, while doing that, just like when when Garyong was killed by the king, because you don't believe, because you don't believe that you have your own form, you don't have any kind of selfish thoughts.
불교는 여태까지 이렇게 살아왔어.
Buddhism has lived on so far like this. That's why there was no war.
그래서 회교도들이
In India, when the Muslims, when they murdered, when they slaughtered so many monks of Nalanda University, no one revolted against it. No one even had the anger against it. Why is that so? Because they have heard something like this.
이런 말씀을 드려요.
Because they have heard such sayings.
그러므로 보살은
Therefore, Bodhisattva never gives up the samsara with the strength of the means. Bodhisattva, in order to save all sentient beings, they go through samsara and they never give up.
마침내 보살 10지에 올라서
After all, finally, when they have reached the 10th stage of Bodhisattva,
내용 중에서 다음 생이 부처가 될 때까지
until their next life becomes Buddha,
포기하지.
they don't give up.
그 윤회하는 것 자체도 포기하지 않는.
They don't give up even samsara.
그렇다고 해서
Just because of that,
되겠다. 열반에 떨어지지도 않아.
they don't even fall for the nirvana.
무주체 열반이
So that's why the nirvana of non-abiding is completed.
그래서 오직 무주체 열반만에
That's why they only achieve the dharma of nirvana of non-abiding. That's why, therefore,
보살 소문경에서도
as mentioned is
지혜를 알고
in
본대로 완전히 제거한다. 방편
as mentioned, with the strength of wisdom, you get rid of all agony.
바른 견해 부처님에 대한 바른 견해 생기고 공수를
You have the right understanding of Buddha, and with the wisdom, with the voidness, you get rid of the method.
잘 알고서
And also, it doesn't end there. You know the means very well, and you don't even neglect even a single human being or sentient being, and you try to save all of them.
이게 불법의 핵심이에요.
And this is the essence of Buddhist teaching.
다른 건 아니에요.
It's nothing special.
해심밀경에서도
Even in the Samdhinirmukkhana Sutra,
그 경입니다. 해심밀경에서도 유정 중생의 이익에 별 관심이 없으며
if you have no interest for the sattvas, where this belongs to the Hinayana, despite that,
이 대승보살의 행이 나오거든요.
it also mentions about the act of the bodhisattvas of Mahayana. So that's why
해심밀경을 이걸 갖다가 부정을 해야 되는데 부정이 안 되니까 말을 못 하는 거야. 유정 중생의 이익에 별 관심이 없으며
they don't have much interest for the sattvas,
모든 것에 대한 별 관심이 없는 것을
and not having so much interest in other things.
나는 가르치지 않았다. 그러니까 이때는 여기 관심이 없다는 얘기만.
Well, here the no interest refers as when you're in nirvana, just like arahants, whether all sentient beings are enlightened or not. If you have no interest,
중생들이 육도인을 벗어나는데도 나는 별로 관심이 없고
if you don't have interest, I also don't have interest if all other sentient beings have attained nirvana, but I have only interest in getting rid of my agony.
가르친 적이 없다.
And it is said that I have never thought like this.
보살행을 가르쳐
So it's already mentioned like that in the
무상청정원생각이라는 게 바로 이제 깨달음입니다.
in the Samdhinirmukkhana Sutra. Here the Musangchongkak is enlightenment. Therefore, if you want to gain enlightenment, you have to rely on both wisdom and also method. It's also mentioned in the sutra.
두 가지를 갖다 완성해라는 것이
Completing or cultivating both wisdom and method is very important. Bodhisattvas are naturally born with great wisdom.
위대한 지혜라는 것은 뭐냐면
Here, the great wisdom refers to experience of voidness,
자성에 대한 확신이에요.
the affirmation for existence of no self nature. So that's why the afflictions, they cannot even affect them at all. If you experience voidness, then even the agony is stopped.
하는 원인도 되지 못하는
And also, it does not act as the reason for them to be born in the place where they don't want. So, they are born in a place where they want.
위에 태어나고 왜 이 부모 밑에 태어나
Why are you born in this area? Why are you born under these parents? Well, some people are born without any understanding, but bodhisattvas, they don't live their life like that. They're always born in a place where they want to be born, and
일생 해야 될 소임이 있고
they also have the duty that they are born with, and they put their duty into a great action, and the action they take it with the help of six paramitas.
태어날지도 모르고 뭐 그냥 대충 업 따라서 태어나 버리고 이렇게 하는 것을 보살이라고 하지 않아요.
We don't say if you're just born with karmas and if you're born under those notions as bodhisattvas.
태어나지 않는다. 보살들이 지혜와 방편의 수행을 병행할 때는
So when bodhisattvas
사람 등그
put both wisdom and methods,
해서 있거나 윤회를 계속 그냥 하거나 그러니까 중생처럼
they don't just remain in nirvana, or they just don't go through the samsara, but they go through the samsara with an aspiration.
대승경전에 딱 그냥 부처님께서도 사바세계 당신이 태어나는 부모까지 당신이 선택을
So it's also written in the sutras that Buddha has also chosen to which parent that he will be born in the Sa world, in the mundane world.
이게 그 입퇴하는 것을
He chose to be born under the Maya, and
그렇게 한단 말이에요.
that's how bodhisattvas, great bodhisattvas do.
만약에 부처님께서 그런 걸 부모를 선택하고
If Buddha didn't know how to choose the parents,
그래서 어디로 태어나겠다는 생각을 갖다 했었고 그 입퇴하면서 어떻게 했었고 이런 것을 갖다 뒤에 어떻게 말씀하겠다.
then Buddha would not have spoken about where he'll be born and how he was born. He remembered all of them.
그들의 목적은 오직 중생들을 돌보면서 완전한
Their motivation is only by taking care of the sentient beings and attaining the complete wisdom, the complete enlightenment. And with that, they also recite the mantra, let's go to the land of enlightenment. So they don't even do it alone, and also in that way they cannot even attain enlightenment.
이런 것을 갖다 대성이라고 해요.
And this thing we call as Mahayana, these teachings of Mahayana is very,
이 인류가
well,
태어난 이래로
from the moment that mankind was born, this is the most excellent rule, and also it is also the teaching that benefits all sentient beings in reality.
오늘 여기까지 하죠.
Today the teaching ends here.